Perfect. Okay, so this is our Teaching in Special Education Settings webinar. We will jump right into things. So my name is Victoria. I'm one of the Global Opportunities Consultants here on the North American team. I was lucky enough to teach in Australia back in 2023 already. Big avid traveler. I also lived in the UK, and I now get to send teachers to both Australia and the UK, which we'll be addressing today. And joining me is Amy, all the way over from Australia.
Yes, I'm Amy. I am actually not a teacher, but I joined ANZUK at the start of this year. I did my OE in London pre-COVID, so I spent a couple years over there, and I'm actually originally from New Zealand. So now lived in a few different places. So although I can't comment on the actual teaching experience, I have experience living in different places.
We're quite international between the two of us, and you now are helping place teachers in their roles down in Melbourne.
Yes.
So for anyone new to ANZ UK, we have been in operation for over 20 years, founded back in 2004. Operate globally, over 300 staff globally in 21 offices throughout the world, Australia, UK, Canada, New Zealand, as well as throughout Europe. And we're really here to provide 360-degree support from inquiring about what the opportunities are for teaching abroad, all the way through your time actually working and getting over there. So what we'll be covering tonight, we're going to be going over the different available geographies where teaching in special education settings is available, what type of work is available in these specialized schools, the different types of schools, as well as why work in these settings, the visa options for both Australia as well as the UK, and then how ANZ UK can support you in this journey. So we'll jump right into the UK. We are always expanding in the UK. So we currently have our 5 main offices in London, Surrey, Cardiff, Wales, Bristol, and Southampton, but we're also moving out to Essex and have roles quite literally all over for any opportunity. Their school year is very similar to the North American school year as far as best times to arrive. So they start as well, like us, in the beginning of September. However, they run a little bit longer than the North American school year, typically going through the end of July and taking that end of July, August for their summer break. Now, they do still have great breaks incorporated throughout their school year to make sure that they are making up for all those weeks that they are going. So they are split into 3 terms. And in the midst of each of those terms, you're going to get a week-long half-term break, as well as a week-long between the terms, as well as you can see here. And then we've got Australia. Maybe I'll let you take away our options there.
Yes, so I am in the Melbourne team here, so we have a lot of casual relief teaching opportunities. We've also got a permanent opportunities team and then early childhood as well. In Sydney, we also do CRT in schools, and perm. We have a permanent team there as well, but the CRT is a little bit different in Sydney. So Melbourne has, I guess, the greatest amount of work. So if you are looking for casual work, that's definitely, I guess, where you'll get the most of it. In Sydney, a lot of it is direct to schools rather than through agency. So you've got to kind of make those connections yourself. And if you are working with us, it's just the work may not be as frequent. And then in Queensland, we don't have a schools casual relief team. I believe we've got a permanent opportunity team, and then I think early childhood there is there as well. Sorry, I'm not very good with Queensland.
Nope, that's all good. You hit it spot on the head. Of Melbourne's going to be where the vast majority of work is, especially if you want the casual relief work. That's going to be the best place for you to go. Sponsorship opportunities, which we'll talk about as well, that's going to be your best bet. But there are some opportunities in Sydney and some opportunities in Queensland if you are absolutely dead set on heading to those locations. Their school year calendar is very different. Amy, just kind of want to lay out the terms and when is best time to come?
Yeah, so I guess the busiest terms for us are terms 2 and terms 3 for casual relief work. So talking about the schools team here, so in primary and secondary and special education, in terms 2 and terms 3, you could basically have work every single day. When we get into term 4, it's a little bit different. So it starts off a little bit slower, and then because of secondary exam times, from weeks 5 and 6, secondary school CRT sort of does drop off quite a lot. So you'd be looking to be able to access the further out areas. Those central schools do have quite a large network of CRTs, so they drop off almost entirely in some places, but the further out schools will always have a need. So I guess something to think about when you're looking at living in different places as well. And then the same for term 1. So when it first starts, I guess people have just had a school holidays, they're coming into school and they're feeling good and they're not really calling in sick for a good few weeks. So the start of the year, everyone is, I guess, more motivated to be in their job. So the first few weeks can be pretty quiet and picks up sort of week 3, week 4. And then, yeah, as the term goes on, and then you're into your busiest terms again. But yeah, it's quieter at the start of the year and at the end of the year.
Yeah, similar trends to what we see here in North America, just a very differently laid out school year with them starting at the end of January, versus our school year starting in September here. They go along with the calendar year. With work opportunities, I can talk about permanent contracts, but Amy, do you want to talk about the CRT and kind of some short-term contracts?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of supply work, basically it is dependent, but if you wanted to just do day-to-day relief work, that's definitely something that our team can support. Some people like to have a little bit more consistency in a school, so we basically just, when we're having your initial conversations and onboarding you, we would be making sure we write your preferences down so we can support you in the best way. But you mark your own availability on the app, so you don't have to do every day, but yeah, you can if you want to. If it was day-to-day work, that might be calls the morning of or the night before, or sometimes you might be pre-booked like a week before as well. We'd get short-term blocks at a school too if they needed an art teacher for a week, or if they just knew that someone was on leave and they knew they needed a CRT for a week or two. And then we also get more fixed-term contracts as well, which might look like a term long at a school. So my housemate, for example, has been at a school called Keysborough. He's been there every term this year. They just pre-book him as a CRT, and that works for him because he likes the consistency, but he doesn't want to be on a permanent contract. So he's still working through us, but he's booked consistently as a CRT at one school. So there's definitely lots of different options, even though you are sitting within our casual relief team.
Fantastic. And that's true for both Australia and the UK, with the day-to-day supply work as well as those fixed-term contracts. One good thing to know about Australia is if you are going over on a working holiday visa, which is the main visa that our educators who are under 35, under 30 for those in the US go over on, you can't work at any one school for more than 6 months. So these day-to-day or fixed-term contracts are what you're going to be going for. You can't take like a year-long contract, that is something you can do in the UK. So if you are after a year-long contract, we're going to look at different visa options and what our opportunities are. That being said, we do also have permanent opportunities, and the special education sector is actually a really great area if you are looking for a permanent opportunity for a long-term move. We do work with schools that offer sponsorship, or there are skilled worker visas available where you can come over to the country, and we can help you land that full-time. With the pay rates, we're not going to go into too much because it's going to differ between where you're actually living, what type of job you're taking, but this is something we can go into on our calls later. It is paid out on a weekly basis, which is really, really nice, but the pay is dependent on your experience and the location that you're going to be working at. Do you want to talk a little bit about what the soft skills are needed for working in special education schools?
Yeah, so part of my role this year has actually been recruiting for the special education schools in the south of Melbourne. So I would say we actually here in Melbourne, you don't need to have any particular qualification. Even as a teaching assistant as well. Obviously, really good to have experience working with children. That's kind of a must. But other than that, if you're a teacher, any what works really well is someone, I guess, who's just really flexible in the classroom and open to kind of different environments. Um, as long as you can kind of go in and adapt your way of learning, because you'll be working with lots of different children who have different needs in the classroom. But yeah, we find people who are much more flexible work well because you never know what's going to happen in the classroom that day, and it's obviously quite varied work. But it's also a really amazing place to work because you get to see visual progression in children that you might not see otherwise. Like these kids, yeah, really small environments too. So you'll have teaching assistants in the class with you, and then depending on the school, you might have one per child, or you might just have one teaching assistant to help you with maybe 5 kids in the class, or it might be up to 12 kids in the class with a few teaching assistants, but that just depends on the specialized school.
Awesome. Yeah. Um, some schools, and this is now more UK focused, will require additional qualifications. So for the Ontario teachers, that would be like doing your special education additional qualifications back here in Ontario. But like Amy said, it's not necessary. It's more going to be based off the soft skills, the experience, and just the willingness to get in there. Awesome. There are tons of different types of special education schools, and Australia and the UK all love their acronyms and short forms. So we're going to do a bit of a jump into what are the different schools and what do they mean. So if you are working in these settings and you get a call for an SEN school or a PRU school, what does that actually mean and what types of students are in these schools? This is a lot of writing, but Amy, do you want to kind of talk about what SEN, DSE, SDS, what those schools look like in Australia?
So special education, I think we mainly use SEN and SDS, but would be based off kind of, so special education needs is generally it's children with an IQ above 50. So the classrooms are dependent on, I guess, ability as well. So in, for example, an SEN school, that might be looking at somewhere like Southern Autistic here in Melbourne. And in comparison to a traditional classroom, you might have sort of lower years, middle years in primary school and upper years of primary, rather than sort of grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, because it's based on the ability of the kids in the classroom. Special development schools, maybe more of those kind of physical needs with the children as well. And then again, in each of those classrooms, you'd be looking at children who are matched to the ability of their peers. So not necessarily ages as such, but kind of what they're able to do in the classroom. Sorry, that's a very not accurate.
No, that's totally
depiction,
fair,
but
and it's very interesting. I've noticed as a teacher in Canada, there are schools similar to schools I taught at while I was in Australia, but we don't often learn about them or hear about them. So it was interesting to see these schools are really specialized for the students' needs. The actual facility itself will be designed with these students' needs in mind, whether that's having outdoor areas attached to the classroom so that kids can go decompress when they need. There's therapies available in the school, whether that's OT, speech and language pathology, so that kids who might need to be missing school quite often to go receive like medical care or additional care aren't having to miss as much school. So really interesting like setup of these schools to service the students that need it. Yes, and SEND is more UK, but same kind of idea. Another one, the next two are kind of the UK terminology. So another one that you'll find in the UK is the SEMH, social, emotional, and mental health. So these schools are going to focus on helping children with social, emotional, and mental health needs, prioritizing the well-being, the relationships. There is still an individualized curriculum for these students, so you are still going to be doing your maths, your languages, your science, but also working on building skills, resilience, self-awareness, more of the life skills that are needed for some of these students to be able to be successful in that classroom and beyond. Our last type, again, is more UK based. These are the pupil referral units, PRUs. So this is a type of school that caters for children who aren't able to attend mainstream schools. This can be for a variety of reasons. It could be behavioral challenges. Sometimes students are expelled from their mainstream school, needed somewhere else to go. But it can also be meeting students with medical conditions, learning difficulties, as well as social and emotional needs. It can be a short-term solution for kids in the interim to try and get them on track to get back into a mainstream school, or it can be long-term for students who need it. But the goals behind these schools is a successful transition. So whether that is back into the school or whether it's going forward to employment or going forward to further education, it's going to be a modified curriculum again to meet the students where they're at, build on the skills that they need to build on, rather than just solely focusing on, like Amy said, grade 1, grade 2, grade 10 curriculum. It's going to be met with what they actually need. All right. Why teach in specialized schools? I have my personal comment, but Amy, do you have any thoughts about why people should teach in specialized schools, maybe if they haven't before coming over?
I guess for some people it's
Oh, sorry. It's cutting out a bunch.
oh,
Oh, I
sorry.
can hear you
Can you
now.
hear me?
You're good. Yes.
Yeah, a lot of the comments that we get are people may not be comfortable, they don't have the training, but like these schools are incredibly supportive. So I've been lucky enough to visit quite a few of them in the south of Melbourne, like I said, where I was recruiting. So, honestly, the most incredible staff. So, at Southern Autistic, for example, some of the office ladies have worked there for over 10 years and they're just such nice people. They know that it's not the easiest job at times, but they can finish the day and they'll always have a laugh and like you'll come out with, a bit of a story potentially, but it's also just really good for your teaching toolbox. You're always going to have children in a mainstream class with additional needs who may not have been able to get the support to be able to be diagnosed or be able to be in a different environment. So I guess even if you only do like a few days in a special education setting, um, you're only going to learn valuable skills to help you in a normal like mainstream classroom. But yeah, they're really incredible environments. The principals that I've met there as well are just like incredible people. They're very passionate and supportive, and yeah, I don't think a lot of schools with so many students have that same support network as like these small, unique, specialized schools. And also a great way to meet people. For example, like Southern, we have about 40 people who go there a day. So if you want to meet some internationals, like that's where you're going to do it. And they all go out and socialize together outside of work too. So yeah, it's really cool.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I have said this to so many educators that you will learn so much more from doing a single day at one of these schools than you will from doing some of the additional qualifications or online courses that we are offered here in Ontario. I've taken my course, my special education part 1 online course, and you learn some stuff, but getting to work a day in these schools with teaching assistants who've been in these roles for years, with the administration team that has been in these roles for years, you will learn so much more. And like you said, you'll have students in the future who are on the autism spectrum or have additional needs, and being able to take the knowledge from these schools and apply it to your own classroom later in your career is enormously helpful. Beyond that, the personal growth, the step outside of your comfort zone, the career development is great. And the work options really open up. So as Amy mentioned, one of the schools, Southern Autistic School, wonderful school. I'll jump into my favorite story from there at the end. But if you want to get some work, special education settings need more teachers. There's smaller class sizes. These schools need, up to 40 teachers a day. So if you want work, special education needs are a great school. And there's also sponsorship available for schools in certain areas. So we'll go into that with the visas. All right, so if you are interested in teaching in special education settings, you are living in North America, and you're wondering how can you get over there, there's a few different options. So our most popular one is going to be the working holiday visa for Australia. It's the 417 for Canadians, available to those aged 35 and under, the 462 for Americans, available to US citizens 30 and under. Current cost about 650 Australian dollars plus proof that you have $5,000 for living, traveling expenses. It's a 1-year visa with some opportunities to extend if you do want to stay longer. Pretty quick and easy visa application as long as you are meeting the requirements. Typically comes back within at least a month. If you are over the age restriction or you are looking to make this a long-term move to Australia, there is also opportunities for sponsorship. So the opportunities for sponsorship very recently changed from 2 years of teaching experience down to just 1 year of teaching experience. So if you have a full year of teaching experience under your belt, you can be eligible for sponsorship. You have to be sponsored by an employer and start your role within 90 days of arriving. So this is absolutely something that our permanent team in Australia can help with if you have experience working in special education settings and are looking to come over for a longer time. The visa lasts between 2 to 4 years, depending on if you are primary or secondary, but does offer routes as well to PR. Can take just 2 to 6 months. We're actually just in the midst of kind of the mass hiring for the 2025 school year, maybe on the tail end of that. But if you are looking to get over for a longer term opportunity and have some experience working in these settings, it's a really great visa route for you to be able to go down to come into Australia and start your career here.
We also, on that, as you were in a working holiday visa, a lot of the schools in the west of Melbourne have sponsorship opportunities, especially those special education schools out there or special development schools, most of them in the west. So they generally try and get someone as a CRT for a month or so, kind of see how it goes, and then they would offer like as soon as it works and if they're, if it runs agreement. So if you were on a working holiday visa and you want to stay longer, then that's an option.
Absolutely. That's a great point. And I always do encourage, if you are eligible for that working holiday visa, it's a great way just to go and get your foot in the door, get over to the country first. And like Amy said, if you can meet the schools, get some experience there, actually get to meet the students, meet the administrative team, that's a great route to lead to that sponsorship as well. Amazing. And then the UK. So the UK has the Youth Mobility Scheme. So this is for Australia, New Zealand, and Canadian citizens, again, before your 36th birthday, so 35 and under. For US citizens, there is a high potential individual visa if you have graduated from specific schools that you can look into. But for those Canadians, up until your 36th birthday, takes about 6 months to process. This is an automatic 2-year visa, and you are able to extend for a 3rd year there if you would like once you are living in the country. This visa is a bit more expensive than the Australian visa. However, it does cover the immigration healthcare surcharge. So the actual application itself only costs about 500 Canadian dollars, but you are paying for 2 years of healthcare in the country, which is just shy. So comes out to about 3,000 Canadian all in. We do have a dedicated visa support team as well to help with this process, just to go over the whole process, the biometrics, everything that needs to get done to ensure that it's all done correctly and up to code. Awesome. The next steps in your journey. So if you are interested in going to teach abroad, if you are interested in teaching in special education settings or primary, secondary, TA work, ECE work, anything of the sort, we are here to help from the very beginning to answering all the questions all the way through the process. What we need to get started is an up-to-date resume, as well as some professional references, and we will get a photo as well, but that can come later. And I love this. We handle the boring stuff so you can focus on the fun stuff. Finally, the steps in the journey. Initial contact would be with myself or someone on the Canadian team. We can go through your visa options, any questions you have. Step number 2 is to register to work with our Canadian team. We will complete your reference checks and do everything we need to do on the Canadian side to make sure that you are cleared to go to this country. Step 3 is contact from our global team. So depending on where you are going, you'll get to chat with a local representative on the ground in the UK or in Australia to talk to you about what you're looking for, what kind of roles you are interested in. Then comes the compliance to make sure that the forms, the process is all done up to code, up to par. And finally, you're clear for work, you're on the ground, you've landed, you've gone into our offices, you've registered, the paperwork's complete, you're ready to go. And step 6, you're in the classroom, you're teaching. Sport doesn't end there. We also offer PD sessions in all of our locations and social events so that you can meet other international educators and locals as well on the ground. If anyone stuck around this long, I'll share my favorite story from teaching in a specialized school. But Amy, did you have anything to add before I ramble at the end here? I can't hear you again. It's still not coming through. I know, it says your microphone is on. Oh, I can hear you now.
What is going on?
I don't know. I don't know. It's just not our night.
And no, I was just gonna say, we have international events every term for everyone who's recently arrived. So that's a really good way of connecting with other people. And we also try and connect people who are arriving at a similar time before they get here if they are traveling alone and are keen to meet someone else. So yeah, you definitely wouldn't feel alone if you were moving over by yourself.
Amazing. Awesome. And yeah, since we were talking about Southern Autistic School, I will always share, this is one of my main stories I share to educators, is when I was living over in Australia, very nervous about going to work in an SEN school. I didn't really have much experience back here in Canada doing this. And I was called in to go to a secondary classroom at Southern Autistic School. It was a Friday, and I walked in and was told that on Fridays and Wednesdays, the students in my class ran the cafe. So for the full day, the students baked all the baked goods, they made the salad, they ran the register, they made coffee for everyone. It was phenomenal to see the life skills that the students had developed, but it was also a great day for me as a teacher where I got to eat a ham and cheese toasty and have a coffee and kind of hang back, and they knew what to do. They knew everything and how it was there. And I just kind of got to sit and watch. So phenomenal experience. And I really think that teaching these education settings can be so, so valuable. And I think that every teacher should give it a day, try it out. You'll learn so much and might just find that this is where you want to carry out the rest of your career. You never know. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Amy, for joining us all the way from Australia. I appreciate you coming out. And
thank you for having me.
for those who are watching at home, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, whether it's about Australia or the UK, and we're happy to help you get started on your journey.